nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. Amen? I read to you the first book of Psalms, verses 1 through 3. God bless the doers of his holy word.
Amen. 25 years. We've been here 25 years. This is our silver anniversary. And we can thank God. Let's prepare our hearts and minds to approach the throne of grace. Heavenly Father, we come before you today. We come before you to say thank you. We say thank you first and foremost for the redemptive sacrifice of your Son, Jesus Christ. We thank you for his life, his sacrifice of death, and his resurrection, which brought us hope. We thank you, Father God, for the apostles that came behind him and went from house to house to beginning to initiate the Christian church. We thank you, Father God, for the sacrifices that they made. And even as we say this, as we come for 25 years of celebration of this church, which started in the Munn home, we thank you, Father God, for those prayer warriors that stood up. We thank you for the years of sacrifice, the courage. The Lord was endowed by them with the Holy Spirit. We thank you for them, Father God. We thank you throughout the years of blessing True Spirit Baptist Church. We thank you for bringing us through the recession. We thank you for the pastors that stood before us and proclaimed the word of God. We thank you, Father God, for the deacons and the division heads that sacrificed and worked hard and provided the leadership through the power of the Holy Spirit, that have Jesus Christ in their heart. We thank you for the members that came, and some who would give money that they knew they couldn't afford to give, so that we could go ahead and proceed forward. We thank you, Father God, for the vision that helped us to build this building. We thank you, Father God, for bringing us forward. We thank you for Pastor Flanoy, who took us as far as he could take us, went ahead and retired. And we thank you, Father God, bringing it to us, Pastor Greer, our current pastor. We thank you, Father God, for his anointing and for his preaching. And we thank you, Father God, for this day. We also petition you, Father God, for mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and emotional healing, blessing, and protection and help for each and every family that's represented here. We thank you, Father God, in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
He's sweet, I know. He's sweet, I know. Oh, yes, storm clouds may rise. may rise. Oh, wind may blow. Yes, and I'll tell the word wherever I go. Oh, yes, I found a Savior and me, I know. Oh, that he's sweet. I know. He's sweet. I know. Yes, storm clouds may rise. Oh, may blow. Oh, then I'll tell your word. Wherever I go. Oh, yes, I found a Savior, and free. I know that He's sweet. I know.
That concludes our devotion. Now turn you to the hands of our pulpit.
Good morning, True Spirit. At this time, we're going to have our responsive reading. I ask that you stand for the responsive reading. I will be the leader, and you will be the congregation, and we will all close out together. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling.
For it is God which worketh in you, both to will and to do of his good pleasure.
Do all things without murmurings and disputings,
that ye may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world.
holding forth the word of life, that I may rejoice in the day of Christ, that I have not run in vain, neither labored in vain.
Yea, and about the offering of the sacrifice to serve your joy, faith, I joy and rejoice with you all.
For the same cause also do joy and rejoice with me. Thank you.
Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. I said the Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. He woke me up this morning and started me on my way. The Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. He woke me up this morning. I was clothed in my right mind. He didn't let me sleep too late. He woke me right on time. He woke me up this morning and started me on my way. The Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. He woke me up this morning. I was clothed in my right mind. He didn't let me sleep too late. He woke me right on time. He woke me up this morning and started me on my way. The Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. The Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. I said the Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. He woke me up this morning and started me on my way. The Lord is blessing me right now. Oh, right now. The Lord is blessing me right now. Right now. The Lord is blessing me
on, it don't stop right there. If you know the Lord is blessing you, you might as well get back on up. We might as well make one big choir. 25 years, we having a Holy Ghost party today. Come on, tenors, 2. Hey. The Lord is blessing me right now. The Lord is blessing me right now. Every tenor in the house, this your part. That's it. Alto, come on. Altos in the congregation, that's your part. If the Lord is blessing you, you better sing it like you know it. That's it. All right, sopranos, y'all coming up right here. Let's break the music right here. That's it. He woke me up this morning. And started me on my way. The Lord. The Lord. The Lord. The Lord. The Lord is blessing me right now.
Oh, you don't have to stop praising him. You don't have to stop praising him. The Lord is blessing us right now. Right now. Oh, bless his holy name. Merciful God. 25 years. The Lord is blessing us right now. Right now. I love the Lord. He heard my cry. What about you? He's blessing you right now. Serve a God that can move mountains. To speak to your situation. Give you peace that passes all understanding. He's blessing you right now. I don't think you know how to receive a blessing. First, you have to give in to take something out. And he inherits the praises of his people. I don't hear nobody praising. I guess you want to stay on that ship, huh? But I know you can get off the ship and walk. This pastor of this great church spoke this. He said faith ain't faith until it's tested. Oh, it's praying time. It's good to take all things unto God in prayer. I just said something. I know we want to hold on to a little something, right? But he said take it all. God's people shouldn't be in bondage. We should be free in the spirit to worship him. All you have, all you get. It's because he bore the cross. And I love him for being a promise keeper. He said, I'll never leave you. Can you ask your friend to say that about your friend? I will be with you until the ends of time. I'm not preaching, I'm just praying. I'm praying while you're sitting down. If you stand up, we can pray together. Will you stand with me? Oh, bless his holy name. Lord, I stand before you as a servant. Realize no matter what, I know I still have issues. But I thank you that you say if you repent, And Lord, I'm asking you to remove everything from me that's not of you and mend my heart of the things that are of you. That people will hear your words, that you will encourage them in your word. Because even in the beginning, it was your word. You spoke everything and existed. And we thank you, dear Lord, in the name of Jesus. Lord, I thank you for hearing our cries. Sometimes it's a cry of joy, and sometimes it's a cry of pain. But Lord, we know in any situation you can turn it around. Some have went on and lost their loved ones. But we thank you for the soldiers you have placed in our past. As we go back to memory lane, we thank you for the ones that laid this foundation and I went on the other side. We thank you for the soldiers like Pastor Morrison, Deacon Mon, Deacon Lewis, Deacon Brian, Deaconess Mon. We thank you, dear Lord. Even though we might moan, dear Lord, we also have a cry of joy. Because we thank you for the man of God here, Pastor Greer, that's taking us to a new direction. Lord, I ask you to touch the man of God. Lord, I know he thirsts after you, dear Lord. And you say, if any man thirsts, let him drink of you. And out of their belly will flow rivers of living water. Let this river of living water to touch those that are sick, those that are ill, those that are in pain, dear Lord. Let them know, dear Lord, they can rest in you. In the name of Jesus. Lord, while we on this Jesus journey, we know sometimes the road is rough and sometimes it's smooth. Sometimes we get to the intersection. Sometimes we even want to turn around. But fill us with your Holy Spirit that we'll go forward and those things that distract us, dear Lord, we'll put behind us and we'll focus on the source of all power. Because you died, but you got up with all power in your hand, and we thank you. In the name of Jesus, touch every soul, touch every spirit here, dear Lord, that we will worship you in spirit and in truth. Those that are hungry and don't know which way to go, dear Lord, thank you for your word of encouragement. You said, don't worry about what we should eat or what we should drink or how we should be clothed. You said, first seek your kingdom and your righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto us, dear Lord. You are our provider. You are Jehovah Nissi. You are a way maker, and we thank you. You are the great I am. You're everything, dear Lord. Touch us in a mighty way, dear Lord. Change hearts today, dear Lord. As the psalmist David cried out, creating us a clean heart, renewing us a right spirit. In the name of Jesus. If we are speaking, saying you're good all the time, dear Lord, let it be known that you're good all the time. Let it be known that you are the door. And if we go through the door, sometimes friends will leave us. Sometimes pain will come. Sometimes rejoicing will come, dear Lord. But Lord, you promised us and you have made us to be in your image. So now, dear Lord, as we walk through the door, we can have compassion as you don't have compassion for us. That you gave your only begotten Son, and your will is for none to perish. Let us have the same spirit in us that's in Jesus Christ. That we love each other unconditionally, realizing our enemy is not flesh and blood. That we'll grow together, we'll pray together, that we'll love one another together. That when you come back one day, we'll be that church without a spot or a wrinkle. That our names will be written in the Lamb's book of life. That we'll hear these words, good and faithful servant, job well done. We thank you for what you're about to do. Release the power of the Holy Ghost. May it be a Pentecostal experience here today. That we'll take all focus off self and look at you. In the name of Jesus, I pray. And Lord, as we cry on this side, you had given us your promise. Every tear be wiped away on the other side. Every day will be the Sabbath, and every day will be hallelujah. I thank you, dear Lord, for all that you have done and yet to do. Bless your holy name. This is my request, and this is my prayer. In your son Jesus' name. And let the church say amen. Amen. Let the church say amen.
Amen.
Good morning. Good morning. Amen. God is good. It is offertory period time. Malachi 3:10 says, "Bring ye all the tithes unto the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house. And prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, that I will open up a window from heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it." You are in the hands of your ushers and your deacons. you for this day. Thank you for your many blessings, Lord. Now, Lord, I ask that you bless those that gave and bless those that could not give. We appreciate you and we love you because you're such an awesome and wonderful God. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
This is the period of our service in which we welcome our visitors. And on this 25th church anniversary celebration, will you stand? Please remain standing as we have a gift for you. And give us your name and something about yourself.
Amen.
My name is Dee Williams, and I bring you greetings from the King Baptist Church, Denver, Colorado. And I'm here visiting with my cousin, Deacon Horton. Praise. I'm her sister, so all what she said goes for me. And this is my husband, and it goes for him. Here we go.
Yes, my name is Danny Wilson, and we are members of King Baptist Church, and we're glad to be here. Thank you.
First, giving all praise to God, who's the head of my life. My name is Alexis Herradura, originally from San Diego, California. We're a traveling Army family looking for a church home. We're originally from Pilgrim Progressive Baptist Church, where Pastor Foxworth was originally the pastor, bless his soul. Now it's Pastor Townsend. So hopefully you guys can be our new church family.
Thank you so very much. Oh, one more? Okay, one more.
You were saying, Blake, let's get started on this week's announcements.
We're rounding the end of summer, and it's understandable that you might want to get a last-minute vacation in.
You don't have to miss out on Sunday service, though, because you can catch up on live and previous services by searching and subscribing to the channel TSBC Media on YouTube.
If you are a new member to True Spirit, we have a class just for you. It occurs every Sunday in the fellowship hall, starting at 9:30 a.m.
And for those of you that just want to brush up on the Word of God and dive deeper, we also have our Sunday school, which occurs at the same time.
Today is obviously a very special day if you haven't been able to tell by all the excitement, the signage, and the fact that the number 25 keeps floating around.
That's right, Sierra. And because of all the excitement surrounding this occasion, we wanted to find out just what TSBC's 25th anniversary meant to different people. Check this out.
What does the 25th anniversary mean to you?
It means a lot. I'm very excited for it.
To me, the 25th anniversary means moving from the past, going to the future. All in unity, becoming one body, solid, anchored on Christ, doing the Lord's work.
Got it.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen.
It means a lot. First thing it means is that I was able to watch you grow up. Because I've been here 17 years. 17 to 25, it's our silver anniversary. I can remember what it means to me is the sacrifice that many would do before me, like Deacon Taylor, Mother Munn, on and on, Brother Brian. What does it mean to me? It means that I was able to watch this church grow. Because when I came, we were in a storefront, and now we're in a home. What does it mean to me? It means to me that my family was able to come here. We came here, and it was here at True Spirit, that I surrendered to Christ. So 25 years means a tremendous amount to me, especially the 17 years I've been here.
If I may, the church anniversary means a lot to me. Being at the starting line and watching the beginnings, and then watching the baby grow from a baby to a teen to an almost adultness has been a fantastic experience. I'm excited to be a part of this program and blessed.
Thank you.
Well, to me, it means 25 years of praising God, fellowship with friends and neighbors and everything, and just loving the Lord for 25 years. True Spirit Baptist Church.
To me, it means a church that stood on a rock. We've been here for 25 years through many difficult times, and as a church with unity, we have stood together and made 25 years of praising God.
The 25th anniversary means a lot to me.
I've been a member of True Spirit for 24 years, and we've gone through some trials and tribulations, but God has never abandoned us. He's brought us through 25 years, and that is truly a blessing.
And I've been a member here for 11 years, and I think that 25 years is monumental because it shows that God has continued to bless this body. And everybody that is here has persevered and stayed with the program, whatever was happening. You know, we allowed God to lead us and give us the strength to stay. So I want to congratulate True Spirit. God bless you.
Congratulations, True Spirit.
The 25th church anniversary means a lot. God has truly done marvelous things for us, and I'm sure that He has a lot more in store for us. If we'll just hold on and follow His lead, we'll do great things.
Thank you.
It is so exciting for we as a True Spirit Baptist Church to enter into 25 years of building God's kingdom. Not only that, but we are making a difference in the world. And we need to go outside of the church and do more fellowshipping, more bringing in the sheep. Let them know that we are True Spirit Baptist Church. We've been here 25 years, and we are building God's kingdom, and we would love for you to be a part of us.
It's been such an exciting time. I joined in 2003, and I've met some wonderful friends. I feel like I'm at home here at True Spirit Baptist Church. It's been a church of love and friendship and just lots of good things. And I do hope that we'll be going out into the community and building a better relationship.
25th church anniversary? Oh, it means great things. I have been here ever since the beginning of the church. And this is really something special. I get excited when I think about it. How about you?
I get excited too.
All right.
We have been celebrating our 25th church anniversary all weekend, and it continues today with our 3:30 p.m. worship service. This is certainly an event that you will not want to miss.
The final announcement that we have is that this is the last time we go on air with both Christiana and Blake.
We're going to miss you both and wish you good luck in your future endeavors.
That does it for our upcoming events. Keep up with what's going on by searching and liking us on Facebook at True Spirit Baptist Church.
Now here are the rest of your weekly announcements. And remember, God loves you.
We love you.
And there's nothing you can do about it, even if you try. Have a blessed week.
The greatness of the Lord is inconceivable. The love that He shows is unconditional. The power of the Lord is unbeatable. Great He is. Now put your hand together. God is great. Come on, clap your hand and help me. And He's greatly too. Help me say it, house. God is great. And He's greatly too. Let's sing it again, children. The greatness of the Lord is inconceivable. Because the love that He shows is unconditional. Power of the Lord is unbeatable. Great He is. Now put it right there. God is great. Stand in fellowship. And He's greatly too. That's all we're saying. And you can help us out. God is great. And He's greatly too. Come on, clap your hands in the room. Help me say it. Yes, Lord. And He's greatly too. Yes, He is. Yeah. And He's greatly too. Now, why don't you go on there with us and sing it? Hey, hey, God is great. And He's greatly too. He's greatly too be praised. Come on, let's take it up higher. Hey, hey, God is great.
psalmist said, the mercies is in heaven, and thy faithfulness reaches unto the clouds. And the psalmist also says, let everything that has breath praise ye the Lord. Come on, let's celebrate him for his grace, his mercy, and his faithfulness. He's always in store. Amen. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I'm in the right place at the right time. Amen. Certainly we are thankful for who he is and what he is in our lives. Amen. Amen. We are so grateful and excited. It's bigger than 25. We serve a God that has done great things, and he's continuing to do great things. So that's why I will rejoice in the Lord always. And again, they say, I will rejoice. So I'm grateful to be here. Are you glad to be here? Come on, let's celebrate Jesus one more time. For God is great, and he is greatly to be praised. Amen. Amen. Y'all keep them smiles on your face. Amen. Amen. I got a few giveaways, as we would call it, good announcements. I think he thought we forgot about him, but he normally doesn't stay at 11 o'clock service. But I have a certificate of membership for one Reverend Ronald Shirley. Amen. Thankful. Also, I have a certificate of baptism for Miss Nia Price and Miss Honor Price. Amen. We're grateful for what God is doing at True Spirit. I want to personally tell you all thank you for your congratulations. As such a surprise it was to me on Friday to receive my second bachelor in biblical study. Thank you all for your prayers. It was a surprise to me. I had planned on leaving early, and they said, you got to graduate. Oh, really? And so I'm grateful that God is doing some things in my life that I can continue to be a steward of his word, and that I can be a workman, need not ashamed to rightly divide the word of truth. Amen. So continue to pray for me as I continue to pray for you. And I pray that the Lord take us even higher. Amen. Amen. Also, we want to say thank you so far for those that have done their part in this anniversary celebration as we, amen, we've had an awesome week. You all were celebrating him on Friday. I was watching you at the airport, and it looked like God would have been well pleased to see all of his people together on one accord. Give yourselves a hand. Amen. The musical was great. Even though yesterday we had an awesome picnic, a lot of great food. I'm going to laugh at the guys that was grilling. They about blew us up in the parking lot. They know what I'm talking about, but the food was good. I think Brother McHenry said he wasn't taking that one. That wasn't on his charge. Amen. But we're grateful for what God is doing, and the best is yet to come as we will continue and we will climax today celebrating 25 years. And our guest will be from Denver, Colorado. Amen. Pastor Hendricks. So let's give God another hand clap of praise. Amen. So we're grateful for what he's doing. I want to make the announcement immediately after today, which will mean tomorrow, we will begin to start taking shoes from kindergarten to 12th grade, new shoes and school supplies that we want to supply this community with on August the 31st. So I'm soliciting you, ma'am, sir, even young people, to go out and buy some shoes for someone from kindergarten to 12th grade and school supplies. And what we're going to do is we're going to fill that wall up over there. And on August the 31st, we're going to give them away to the community. Amen. People outside of this church, shoes, bags of clothes, or bags of school supplies and things like that. We want to do that because that's what we should do. Amen. Amen. Look at somebody and say, I got to buy some shoes. I got to buy some shoes. So we want you to get brand new shoes. And I want you to challenge yourself. Go to the store and buy some name brands. Yeah, I heard some uh-uhs on that. Go to the store and buy some name brands and watch and see what a blessing you'll be to somebody. But just shoes alone is a blessing. But I guarantee you, if you challenge yourself, watch this, to do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. Love them despitefully how they misuse you. But love them such as God has loved you and give them the best. How many know we serve the best God? He's faithful and reward. He'll reward us. Amen. So I challenge you to do so. So we want to begin to do that. We're going to have a great day on August the 31st. We'll do that. We'll have haircuts for free for our youth in the community. We're still working on the shots for our youth. But we want to bless our kindergarten through 12th grade students as they begin to go back to school this month. Amen. I know some of y'all parents should be shouting because you know you want them at school, not at home. Amen. And we want to continue to pray for, I know that's right, speak in tongues. Amen. We want to continue to pray for ours. I know we have a couple that will be leaving us in physicality, but not spiritual. Amen. We want to pray blessings upon them. I believe it's Blake and Christiana. Who else is leaving us? Yeah, Brother Horton, he already gone, I believe. Amen. Why don't you stand up, Blake? Where Christiana at? Y'all stand up. Let's. Amen. These are our future doctors, lawyers, or whatever the Lord placed them to be. Amen. 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 So we want to continue to pray that God bid them speed. Me and Christiana already had the talk, and we had a good talk about that. And I'm going to talk with Blake before he leaves, just to encourage him. Listen, y'all, you know they're going to school. We know they're going to do some stuff that we did. Okay, you got saved. Some of us still doing it. Though we want to tell them not to do it, we know they don't always listen. So the best thing we can do is to tell them, whatever you do, be careful. Put God first. And whatever you do, just remember, somebody's watching you. So we keep praying over our children. Amen. Amen. Also, I want to announce that the church meeting is August the 29th at 6 o'clock. So I just want to throw that in your ear. It's August the 29th at 6 o'clock. We want all our True Spirit members to come and be a part of our church meeting. Bible study, midweek fuel. I want to thank in advance Deacon Powell in his absence for filling in for me this week while I was at the conference. I want to thank him wherever, I know he's in Denver. He may be watching, but I want to thank him for teaching us on Tuesday. Amen. So this Tuesday at 11:30 and 7 o'clock, we want you to come and be a part of our Bible study where we're discussing the question, is there schism in the church? 1 Corinthians 12:25-27, Paul talks about schism. And he said it should not be, because schism is a split between two groups just because of opinions and indifferences. And schism is a component to cliques. Once we start going opinionated and getting so opinionated on what we think it should be versus what the Bible says, then we start formulating groups that put this person against that person and that person against this person. And when we put the clique together, now we got a bunch of busybodies. Amen, somebody. And the Bible talks about being busybodies, but it also talks about schism. that if we cause division in the house of God, the Bible says a house divided cannot stand. So then not only will it not stand, but watch this, your clique behavior, your schism can also cause a stumbling block for others that's trying to be better. And the Bible says when you cause a stumbling block to the others, that's how it describes it, to others, then now you're bringing damnation on yourself. What is damnation, Pastor? You might not make it to see 70. You might not have the cattle over 1,000 hills. You might not even have the things you think you deserve, even though you worked hard for it. All because you become a stumbling block for others. And the challenge today is if you are a part of schism, if you're causing division in God's house, be careful. Because God just might divide you up and keep you from his people. And the Bible says the last thing you want to hear is hear him say, depart from me not. You sinner, you schism maker, you clicker, you clickers, you backbiter, you sinner of iniquity, and place us in a place of fire. And y'all know what the fire is. That's hell. So we want you to come out Tuesday so we can continue to discuss the matter of, is there schism in the church? And read what the Bible says, because we do know the Bible is right. And as Bishop Patterson would say, and somebody's wrong. Amen. Look at somebody and say, I hope it's not me. Let's give this choir a hand as they come to render selection again. Y'all give the choir another hand. Y'all can do better than that. I'm not trying to be funny, but that's what a choir sounds like. I believe in my heart they know what I'm talking about. Because I've discovered in this journey, be it a choir member, musician, church member, or even a preacher, God blesses the chord. When we are on one accord, the Bible says he enters the room like a mighty gushing wind. And everyone will be blessed. And your talents and gift will be exposed. Why would they be exposed? To uplift the kingdom of God. Come on, let's give them another hand. Amen. Amen. There's no need to worry what tonight is gonna bring. It'll be all over in the morning. There's no need to worry what tonight is gonna bring. It'll be all over in the morning. Y'all know that song? In the morning, it'll be all over in the morning. I'm talking to somebody that's been struggling this week. There's no need to worry what tonight is gonna bring. It'll be all over in the morning. I'll say that one more time. There's no need to worry what the night is gonna bring. Yeah, it'll be all over in the morning. Y'all help me sing this part. In the morning, it'll be all over in the morning. One more time and we're going to get to the word. In the morning, it'll be all over in the. One more time and we're going to get to the text, I promise you. In the. No. It'll be all over in the morning. With your manuals of life, if you would turn with me to Psalm 34. We're going back. Psalm 34. In respect to God, please stand to the word of God, giving reverence to him. Our God and Father's preaching time. Psalm gifts have been given. Now, God, we need a word from on high. Father, as we preach your word, let me decrease. Let you increase in me. Hide me behind the throne, O God. Let them see your image upon me. Let them hear your voice through me. So God, I ask now that you let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Oh Lord, I praise you, give you glory and adoration because you're my strength. And Lord, I love you because you're my redeemer. And the household of faith said, amen. As you're standing, Psalm 34. Oh, there will be no children's church today. Amen. So please, ma'am, please, sir, keep your child awake because the word is good for them too. But just let them know Pastor got his eye on them. If I see him sleeping, I'll tell you to nudge him and wake him up. Amen. Amen. Psalm 34 and 1. If you're there, say amen. If you're still looking, shout out Bible study. We got room for you. There's no discrimination here at True Spirit. And it reads, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make a boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear thereof and be glad. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. That concludes our reading. You may be seated in the presence of God. If I can get you to help me out this morning, and I pray you're sitting next to somebody you don't like, and just nudge your neighbor and say, neighbor, we're going to help him preach. Insane servant with an insane worship. That might have been too many words for some of you, but take your time. Help me nudge that neighbor again. Say, neighbor, we're going to help him preach. Insane servant with an insane worship. Amen. Come on, let's celebrate Jesus one more time. Amen. We're grateful. I know about 2 weeks ago we visited this text and we talked about our worship being big. But as I was scratching the early parts of the morning, the Lord led me back to this. He said, you all are celebrating, or we all are celebrating 25 years. He was talking to me when he said you all, so I'm translating it to we. We're celebrating 25 years, and there will be no need to preach what the preacher's going to preach this afternoon. But you give him something to be grateful for, so when he gets here, he won't have to preach so hard. And so he took me back to this text because I was scratching and found some more meat on this rock. An insane servant with an insane worship. And so as I was looking at this text, we all know as brothers and sisters in Christ, God is a God of attention. He pays attention to those who call on him. Now, whether God offers a way to escape from trouble, or help us in the time of trouble, we can rest assured that he always respond, react, and rescue those who loves him. In fact, there should be an undying love for us because he has showed us that he loved us despite of who we are and what we are. But we should make it a point to prioritize our plans to praise and worship him. It should become top priority because as a believer, you know that if we're truly servants of the Most High, you can't have one without the other. Am I talking to you this morning? And when we think of insane, it draws us to the state of mind. Now, this word insane, in the Greek, it means paraphon, means to be frantic. And there should be, or there should have every church some frantic believers. Some that have a burning desire to give him a worship that's so insane and appear frantic that even God would wonder what's really going on. I mean, you don't have to believe me, but watch this. Psalms 19, when Yah was talking, he says there's a reason why you should be frantic. Let me share with you why. Because God's hands made us and formed us. And he says, may those fear you when they see me, because I put my trust in your word. And the reason why we should be frantic is because, after all, he has committed himself to conveniently carry out the circumstances, the criticism, the condemnation, the personal commentaries of what others think about you, the critics, the circumvented gossip. He carried it all on his shoulders just to get the attention and be tentative to those who need him. So why not have a deeper worship? Why not have an insane praise? Because he pulled many of us out of some Damascus Road situations. Why not have a deeper and insane praise? Because he dedicated his whole life to a bunch of people that's playing with life, that we will have it and have it more abundantly. Why not have an insane and crazy, frantic worship? Because he put our problems on a cross, one piece of wood going north and south, and the other one going east and west. Why not have an insane, I'm preaching and you ain't saying nothing, an insane, frantic shout? Because watch this, had he not did it, you would not live prosperous, prophetic, and profound, nor would you have a prolific and providential life that you can say he done it all because he loved me. I wish I had some frantic worshipers that could just lift up your hands and say, my praise is for real. As a matter of fact, look at somebody and say, I go crazy for the Lord. Because he done so much. Reach around and touch another neighbor and tell them, neighbor, the reason why I shout the way I shout is because God has been good to me. Yeah. He's been good to us. Why not have an insane praise and worship? Why not be frantic? Because can't nobody tell it like you can. Can't nobody testify for you. But I know, and I ain't even getting into text, I can just pick up on the spirit. I know there's some frantic folk that can say, Reverend, if I was to just look back over my life and just think about yesterday and what he done for me. In fact, this morning when I woke up, if I could just look back at about 6 o'clock when I didn't feel like getting up. Now it's 11. I got strength in my body, activities of my limb, clothes in my right mind. I can see with my own 2 eyes, talk with my own 2 tongues. I thank God that he didn't give up on me. Yeah. Be frantic because he's been good to us. So here we are. My fellow friends and laborers in the gospel. Here we are in this pericope that David has given us. And here we are. David pretends to be insane because he's trying to escape from a king called Achish. On your spare time, look at 1 Samuel chapter 21. You'll read more on it. But when you look at this text, David shows us some joy in his activity. And he gives us some tips on how our behavior should be because of who he is. And watch this, David, even in chapter 21 of 1 Samuel, he had to act a certain way while on his journey. So then now he dealt with some particular situations that only can draw his memory back to where it is. And first, David shows us that while you are in your frantic worship mode, worship will cause you to stand alone. It will cause you to stand alone. This word worship in the Greek, proskino, means to give honor, to bow down to God or kings. People will not understand why you like to worship him sometime by yourself. Because you do know there are some people that will attach themselves to your worship just to see what you do to get where you are. But sometimes you got to get all by yourself. I wish I had some closet people that can say, Reverend, sometimes I have to steer away all by myself. Don't look at me funny. The Bible said Jesus walked away from the disciples to have prayer with his God. And sometimes you got to wonder, why, God, do I have to be by myself? Because God has something special to tell you. It's all right to be alone with God. Because how many know just a little talk with Jesus Not ATKK and Boo Boo and Ray Ray and them, but Jesus. It'll make everything all right. So he says worship will cause you to stand alone. But watch, even before we get to the text, the reason why he is a servant with a insane worship, sometimes the perception of your worship will drive others from you. If you read that 1 Samuel chapter 21, the Bible says that he was identified as being insane. Not, watch this, not just by people, but by the kings, which would have been in those days the priests or preachers, as you would call it. And I think I put something on Facebook today because I try to encourage my fellow prognosticators of the gospel that you have a right to praise God too. Y'all look at us like we ain't been through some stuff. But it ain't always been peachy creamy when we start reading scripture. Some of us came through the pits of hell and still singing and saying to be where we are today. And so then, therefore, the Bible said the kings looked at him and thought he was crazy. Might I solicit to the kings, the preachers, the pastors, that it's all right to get your praise on. Y'all didn't hear me. In fact, some of y'all looking at me like you look at the preacher when he shouts. Like he don't have a right to shout. But here it is. It'll drive others from you. Because the Bible says in 1 Samuel 21, when he was declared insane, the Bible says he began to scratch on the gate and slob. Some Bibles are rough. It said drool. And he didn't drool on nobody, but he drooled in his beard. And watch this. Some people don't understand what you are going through. Because here it is. If the struggle was real for you, what makes you think the struggle is not real for them? Some of y'all looking at me like you've been eating ham all your life. Some of us dealt with salami sandwiches and bologna and hot water, cornbread and cheese. But some people don't understand why you're celebrating God at the magnitude that you are. Watch this. He scratched at the door and he drooled on himself. Now, I looked at that from two angles. Two angles. One angle was he scratched on the door and drooled on himself to keep from touching others. And he also scratched and drooled to let God know that whatever's in me, I needed to get out. Let me help somebody. You know, it's been plenty of times had God not been the barrier, the bounder, or the wall that kept you from putting your hands on some so-called saints in the church. You know it's been God's hand of divine grace and mercy to keep your lips closed. So sometimes you have to swallow your own spit without cussing something. Y'all looking at me strange. Some of us know that had it not been for God being a provider, a divider, I would have laid my hands on some folk up in here. But I thank God that he kept the winds. He kept the doors between my hands and my cuss words. So now my cuss is anointed. I don't have to say hell to cuss you out. I can say you keep living like that and you going to hell. Somebody ought to celebrate him for keeping you from people without you being. Yeah, somebody say, I'm holding back. I'm scratching at the door. And some people don't understand that. Listen, I know some of y'all, yeah. Can I just dig a little deeper? Some of y'all should be shouting now because you wanted to cuss your boss off this week. You wanted to quit your job, but God didn't allow you to stay in that mind frame. You just said, Lord, if I hold my peace and I let the Lord fight my battle, victory. I got some VICTORY people in the house that can say, I got the victory. Yes, 25 years is good, but I got some more years that he gave me the victory. So now I can shout my troubles away. Can somebody say I'm crazy for the Lord? Yeah, no. Yeah, some of y'all didn't want to look at your neighbor because you don't want them to agree with what they already been thinking. Yeah, sometimes you just have to get crazy for God because it sends a distorted signal to Satan. If Satan can get your mind wrapped around what he is doing, then now he knows he can control your ways. I wish I had some sinners. But if God can get you to just let him fight the battle and let him stand in the place of the army, how many know then God will show you just how powerful you really are? But I also said this. Here it is. Not only is your worship, it causes you to stand alone, but sometimes the perception will cause people to drive away from you. But your sanity in Christ will determine how much spiritual rest you will receive. Watch this. You got to have a reconciliation with God and his son. And when you are in reconciliation mode with God and his son, you can rest better. I don't know if anybody ever had some sleepless nights. Some nights that you just feel like giving up, throwing in the towel. Truth be told, you say, Lord, I want to lay down and die. Okay, you done got saved on me. Some of us done had some moments in your life that had God not kept his divine order upon you, the reconciliation through repentance and giving my life back to God, you know you would have been in somebody's funeral home, in somebody's grave. But I thank God that his presence will go with me wherever I go. Come here, Moses, Exodus 33. He told me my presence shall go with you and I will give you rest. Come here, David, Psalms 3 and 5. I lay down and slept, I awake, for the Lord sustained me. So that tells me that if I have a relationship with God, I can rest when hell is breaking off around me. I can rest when the atmosphere just ain't right. I can rest even while I'm awake. I can walk through the storms. Yea, though I walk through the valleys and shadows of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because God is with me. Look at somebody and say, I need some rest. I need rest. I got to have some rest. And we know that he'll keep your mind in perfect peace. I wish I had some people that just got them on their mind. I mean, just really can say, Reverend, I can identify what it means to think about Jesus, sleep with Jesus, get up praising Jesus. Y'all looking at me funny. But look, I wish I had some folk over here that could say, Reverend, I love the man. Despite of what he went through, I love him despite of who he is. He don't have to wear today's clothes. I like him for who he was. On the cross, I wish I had some folk right here that could say, Reverend, I love him despite of all the blood and the water that came running down. Somebody right here can say, Reverend, I love him because they put a crown of thorns on his head. He did it all. They spit on him and marched him up the hill. But I thank God that he did it all. So, first thing I saw in this text, why you should be a servant with an insane worship, is your worship should be contagious. The text says, I will bless the Lord at all times. Your worship should be contagious, that it spreads directly and indirectly. Okay. I do know we got some thugs in here. You may not have been in no true gang, but you might have a gangster mentality. Your worship should be contagious to spread directly and then. Okay, let me go here. Thank you, Sister Lois. Being honest, I thank you. Here it is. You remember when we were young, we hung with people that did things that we wasn't supposed to do. You rolled around to some places you shouldn't have been with the windows up, the air on low, and making sure everybody in the car is having some type of contact. You ain't always had eye problems. You ain't always had it. And I ain't always been saved. Truth be told, it don't smell like it used to smell. That's, yeah, And here it is. Your worship should be contagious. That, listen, if they directly blew it at you on purpose, you had a contact. I guess all y'all been innocent. Sitting in the back of the car. That ain't me. Some of y'all looking at me with that stale grin. Now, if you still doing that, I'm praying for you. But here it is. Your worship should be contagious, because there were also those that sat in the back of the car like you did. And you got some indirect contact that you didn't have no intentions on truly getting. Come here, let me help you. Your shout should be so good that even the people in the back that can't see your face should be contacted with the spirit that I wish I had some dwelling spirits that know that they that worship him should worship him. And sometimes you got to act like you high. I'm high on Jesus. Why? Because he paid it all on the cross. He took me higher. He enlarged my I wish I had some high smokers in the house. I can say I get high of Jesus. When I wake up, I get high. When I go to bed, I get high. Because living for the Lord is good. I ain't trying to hurt nobody. But your worship should be contagious. And look what he does. David make it a personal declaration. He says, I will bless the Lord at all times. But he makes it a personal piece when he says, bless the Lord. He says, I'm willing to give back to God in all my circumstances. How often or how sweet it is that we serve a God that is willing to give to us in everything we do. And truth be told, he's trying to groom us to be givers, because worship means to give back. And if we're willing to give back, so then now the reward will be on its way. But David says, I'll bless the Lord, which means that when I come to you, God, I'm not asking you for a favor. But here it is, this wretched person undone, I'm willing to do one for you. When was the last time you just woke up and say, God, what is it can I do for you today? What can I do for your people when I'm tired? I celebrate you while I'm on my job, even though I really don't want to be there. I'm just grateful, and I'll give back to you because you paid it all for me. And all to him I owe. I wish I had somebody that could just raise your hand and say, I don't mind praising him in my circumstances, in my car, on my job, in the break room, even at school. Sometimes you got to praise him before me when I couldn't bless myself. He keep touching my children, covering them, keeping them protected, and I shout because death angel wasn't knocking at my door. Yeah, he says that your worship should be contagious and you should be willing to give back. Paul says it best, for I'm not ashamed of the gospel and the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jews first and then to the Greeks. And I truly believe Paul was saying that in Romans One, because if don't nobody serve God, if don't nobody shout for God, his people should be the first one. Let me take you to history class. What was Jesus? The king of a... So he says the Jews first, and then the Greek. Then those that may not totally believe me, but once they see what I've done to you, y'all just missed your shout. Once they see that I turned you around from being dirty and made you clean, they might say, I want what you got. Once they see that I turned you from a bum on the street to being a wealthy man, I want what you got. And some people need to shout, because had it not been for God, you know now you are zestfully clean and you're no longer walking in the sin in which you lived in. How many celebrators I have that can say, I'm glad the Lord redeemed me. I'm glad I don't look like what I used to. I'm glad I don't do. I wish I had some saints. Y'all done got saved on me. Let me talk to some sinners over here that can say, I don't care what you think about me, but God brought me from a mighty long way. So he says you shouldn't be ashamed, because when he has blessed you, then you can enter into his gates with thanksgiving. Enter into his courts with praise. And it's easy to bless him because you owe it to him anyway. And I struggle with people that would rather pay Satan to die. Bible says the wages of sin is death. If you look at that word wages, that's the things that you have accompanied in a sinful nature. And we chose to pay him to die. But all God is saying, if you do like David and bless me, I'll bless you back. So the second thing I saw in the text, not only is your worship contagious, but then your worship is a consistent commitment. It's right there in your Bible. He says, at all times. That word means he is showing a willingness that no matter the circumstances, he must remain committed and present himself even though things are difficult. Now, mind you, there are so many stories about David. So many things we like to link our lives to as David. But I notice even in the Baptist church, nobody wants to relate themselves to when David was chasing a married woman. Everybody wants to say, I was in the field tending to the sheep. I was anointed, I just wasn't appointed yet. Nobody wants to relate themselves to David when he was doing sinful and lustful things. And truth be told, it was the eye that you had on something that you shouldn't have had is what got you in trouble. And truth be told, in the present tense, was causing some of us to be lack of willing workers is because you got your eye and your mouth in stuff that you ain't got. And the truth be told, in the future tense, you won't grow if you keep taking up everybody else's seed and putting your mouth on people that's saved and sanctified and filled with the Holy Spirit. Because the scripture says, touch not my anointed. That don't just mean the preacher, because he talks about the preacher, and do my prophet no harm. You got to keep your mouth closed if you ain't got nothing good to say. Keep your eyes in your head. Stop rolling them at people, because you just might get knocked out. High five somebody, say, I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Yeah, I'm a lover. Yeah. I'm scratching, Doc. I'm scratching the stick. And let me, can I just get a snicker right while we at the Oasis? I ain't had one in a while. Let me, and here it is. Our senior statesmen of the church. You have to eliminate your comments as well. Because you remember when you once was what they are. See, all my mothers should have just lifted up their hands. And here it is. You ain't always walked so pretty in your life. You ain't always been able to strut like a peacock. And you ain't always been able to fly like a dove. Some of you messy like pigeons. You always got something negative to say. And so the young won't grow because they don't know who to grow and touch. Let me leave that. We got guests. Let me. But that's the text. Because David was in the midst of some kings that looked at him in a different capacity of what he was doing now versus what they wanted him to do. And if you listen and read that text in 1 Samuel chapter 21, you'll see that even when David was in the process of going through some stuff and he had to fight, one of the men told him, he said, all that's left is the sword over there under the ephod. And he said, that's the sword that killed the Philistine. So David said, what other weapon will be better than that? What am I saying? If you prayed them devils off of you, keep praying. Use the same weapon that your mama and them used before you were born. They prayed the devil off folk. They prayed the hell out of folk. And they prayed that God will keep them. Y'all looking at me like you don't cuss. But you know some people just need the hell prayed out of them. Trying to hope somebody, and I hope your children don't take that back to school. And watch this. Here it is. He gave a willingness, and here it is. As men and women of God, let me lay this on an anniversary note. You cannot get year 26 if you're not willing to be thankful for year 25. And let me lay it on another anniversary note. 26 will not get better if you're still thinking about 25 and 26. Stop living on the past. God gave us a future to push us through. So then now we reflect such as David did. So now we can shout even the more, because when you look back past 25, I wish I had Deacon Munn to just lift his hands up. You can say, I've been through the storm. I've been through the rain. But the Lord has kept me. Now I'm a living testimony. I am a survivor. I am what they call a child of God. Why? Because God, I wish I had some celebrators. Some of y'all looking at me, well, he ain't talking to me. If you just came to church, you should celebrate. Because God, down through the years, the Lord has been good. Reach around and just touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, it's all right to shout. He's been good. He's been good. And let me tell you this before I get to my seat. Never confine your praise to your environment. Don't limit yourself to praising God because of the people you are around. Because the Bible says, if you be ashamed to own me before my people, I'll be ashamed to own you. But he also says, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me. Don't be ashamed. Don't confine your praise and your worship to your atmosphere. Because here it is. If the atmosphere had control, it will keep you confined and small. But can I get two that can testify and say, we serve a big God? And I found out that when we give a big praise, we get a big blessing. And when we give a great praise, I wish I had some great soldiers that can say the reason why I shout, because he just keeps on making a way over. Every time I turn around, he just keeps on. That when I look back over my life and I think about the things he's already, my soul shouts out, hallelujah. Don't allow your worship to be confined to the atmosphere, because here it is. Some people will come in and make your space small so that you will not have room to shout. But the Bible tells me about enemies. It's good to have them, because sometimes your enemies don't realize that they have just became your footstool. So now you closing in on me, I got to step on you. Now you talking about me, I got to step on you. And the more you talk, I'm just going higher and higher in the Lord, because he has something special for me. So if you talk about me, I'm just going to step on you. The more you talk about me, I'm going to walk around on you. My shoes is clean, by the way. And we need to realize that the more we lift the Savior up, the greater he'll make us. So then now 150 Psalm says, let it that has breath praise him. So my time is getting to an end. We need to know that David was saying that in his worship, God reveals himself to him through praise and through prayer. But lastly, he shows us in the text that not only is your worship insane, that your worship should be conducive to your communication. Because the text says, his praise shall continually be in my mouth. This word praise in the Greek, it means condemnation or commending, one of being thankful and offering a sacrifice of praise. Meaning that though you condemn me, I'm still willing to offer up a praise. In fact, no one should be able to tell you how to sing your song. In order for your communication to be conducive, you can't testify and test the lie at the same time. Do I have a witness this morning? You can't cuss and speak in tongue, because oil and water just don't mix like that. You can't tell me that you love me and speak evil things about me, because that's not good communication. That's what the Bible says. But Solomon says in Proverbs, he says, those who guard their lips preserve their lives, but those who speak rashly will come to ruin themselves. Paul says it like this. He wants us to give life to the dead, and he calls those things which do not exist as though they did. And sometimes you just have to speak some things into your own life. Ain't the Lord all right? Sometimes you got to pray over your own sick body, because the Bible says, and the humble shall hear thereof. In some Bibles it says, and the afflicted shall hear thereof. And my Bible tells me, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord hears them all and delivers them from their troubles. Ain't the Lord all right? Which reminds me of a man that had a house and he praised God despite of everything that's going on. One day, he had some friends that came to his house, and they looked at him because he was rich now. But every time they saw this man, he was always praising and worshiping God. Ain't the Lord all right? These men, they came to his house. They was wondering why he was praising them. He told the men, he said, follow me. I want to show you why I'm praising the Lord. He took them upstairs to the room number 5. When he saw the room, he opened up the door, and in that room, he had an old busted table with some nails in it. He had an old chair that had 3 legs, and it was propped up against the wall. He had an old black and white television that had an antenna on the back, made by a wire hanger because the antenna had broke off. Y'all know what I'm talking about. In the corner, he had 2 suits with holes in the knees and a pair of shoes with the hole on the bottom. Ain't the Lord all right? The men said, well, you took us to this room and it looked like somebody poor lived here. The man said, you want to know why I shout like I do? Because every time I get so high, I just come and look in this room and I think about what God has done for me. So now I can shout because I can look what the Lord has done for me. And I wonder, is there anybody here that can just stand to your feet and look back over your life and become insane for the Lord because he brought you over, he brought you through, and somebody can say, he did it all. He did it for me. Ain't he all right? Won't he do it? Won't he make a way? Have you tried him and know he's all right? Let me tell you why your praise should be insane. One Friday, they took him up on the hill called Calvary. Golgotha is the name. They hung him high. They stretched him wide from the 6th to the 9th hour. Y'all know what he did. He died. Didn't he die? But how many know they took him down, buried him in the borrowed tomb all day Friday, all night Friday, all day Saturday, all night Saturday. This way you can get your shout on. But how many know early Sunday morning he got up with power in heaven and earth in his hands? I can shout because had he not went on the cross, I was wretched undone. I was sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore. But the Master, he heard my cry. How many know he heard your cry? That Sunday when he got up, he took all the tears and turned them into joy. Because now my name is Andy. Andy walks with me. Andy talks with me. And he tells me I am his own. Do I have somebody that could say I'm insane? Because the Lord just keeps on blessing me. He touched my job. He blessed my children. He blessed my house. He blessed my body. How many know God will? How many know he will? Won't he do it? Say yes. Say he will. He will. He will make a way out of no way. Slide your arm around your neighbor and tell him, neighbor, the reason why I'm holding on to you, I can't hold my peace. I can't stop for shouting. So if I hold on to you, you'll shout with me and think about the goodness of Jesus. And we'll shout over when God's children get together. What a time. What a time. Do me one more favor. High five your neighbor and tell him, neighbor, I'm insane. Because every time I turn around, he just keeps on blessing me. High five another neighbor and tell them, neighbor, weeping may endure for a night, but joy is gonna come in the morning. Do me one more favor. Just turn and look at your neighbor. Put your hand on your hip. Don't let your backbone slip. And tell them, neighbor, I got joy, unspeakable joy. This joy, you ain't got your hand on your hip. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it. And the world sure can't take it away. Say yes. I got one more question. Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. My. Every time I turn around, the Lord, He just keeps on blessing me. Do I got any turners that just don't mind turning for the Lord? Just don't mind turning for the Lord. When you come back around, you ought to lose your mind because He kept you when you couldn't keep yourself. Turn one more time. Turn one more time. Now look at your neighbor and tell him, neighbor, I am a living testimony. I'm done. Woo-hoo. That's it. Somebody should be giving them praise. Ezekiel said he's a wheel turning in the middle of a wheel. Jeremiah said he's like fire. I'm trying not to take it, but Jeremiah said he's like fire. Deacon Munn shut up in my bones. But Granny used to say, dry bones in the valley, shall they live again? I don't want a rock to cry out for me. But while the blood is running warm in my veins, I can shout my troubles over because He's been good. Has He been? I'm done. I'm done. Can I just get two people that don't mind just standing and say, I got the victory? That's why my praise is insane. I mean, y'all ain't hearing me this morning, because if you could just think of one thing that you almost lost your mind over and God kept you, you'll be losing you can't hold your peace. I wish I had some real dancers, deacons. You know, they say, now we ain't in the club, we can still dance. We just changed partners. And some folk that got so sophisticated, you can't shout for the Lord. But I had a question. What is this that makes me run sometime? And ain't nobody running after me. What is this that make me cry when I don't know why I'm crying? Let me tell you what it is. It's Jesus. It's Jesus. Somebody say Jesus. 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 I'm done. A servant with an insane worship. Come on, let's bless the Lord this morning. If you're thankful for what God is doing, come on, let's celebrate Him.